The original Splatoon on the Wii U was one of my favourite games of all time. I'll leave a link to a couple of videos I made at the time talking about my thoughts on Splatoon. I'll leave a link to a video where I said that Splatoon, in my opinion, is the best shooter in the Wii U, PS4, Xbox One generation. Now, I'm not going to make the same comments for Splatoon 2 until I have played Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Call of Duty World War 2. I'm going to play the betas for those two games and then come to my judgment later on in the year in terms of whether Splatoon 2 is the best shooter to come out this year. So that will be for a later date. But yeah, I will leave a link to a video that I made a couple of years ago talking about how I feel that Splatoon, the original Splatoon, was the best shooter in the PS4, Xbox One and Wii U generation. I definitely feel like not a lot of people in the PS4, Xbox One communities talk about Splatoon as a serious shooter, as one of the best shooters, just simply because of its graphics and its art style. But yeah, like I said, for me, the original Splatoon was one of my favourite games of all time. It was, for me, the best shooter up to this year of the Wii U, PS4, Xbox One generation. I would say Overwatch would come a close second, but the loot box system, for me, prevented me from putting that game equal first to Splatoon. It just took you flipping ages. It's like there's very little chance to get legendary items in Overwatch. I just feel like the loot box system is rigged, so that is why Overwatch is number 2. And for me, the OG Splatoon is still number 1. So I'll leave a link to my Splatoon Wii U review as well in the top right. So let's just get on with my Splatoon 2 review, just because I've spent way too long, waffling on about my thoughts on Splatoon. I think the point that Cameron made is I love the Splatoon IP, and of course I was going to pre-order Splatoon 2 day one, get the game day one. Luckily for me, I got the game day 0, if you can call it that. I got it a day early. My retailer shipped it to me a day earlier, so I was lucky to get it earlier. And yeah, I've just been having a blast playing the game. I have probably put in around about 30 to 40 hours in the game. I've just been having so much fun playing this game, and it's still as fresh as ever. It's still, there's nothing out there that is like this Splatoon IP. And a lot of people leading up to Splatoon 2, they were saying, oh, Splatoon 2 doesn't feel like a sequel. Well, from somebody that did play the original Splatoon on the Wii U for 200 hours and is now put in around about 40 hours, that's just my rough estimations. I don't have any figures just because I haven't played the game. I haven't owned the game for 10 days yet, but have played the game for a lot. But for me, Splatoon 2 is a worthy sequel. I did make a comparison video straight after the January presentation, just picking out some points that I noticed, like the hub, or the HUD, like the hub world, I should say, like Inkopolis that has changed, like Inkopolis Plaza has now changed into Inkopolis Square, and the HUD is what I was trying to say earlier. The HUD has completely changed. Now you can see what weapons each individual player has, and if they have a special weapon, basically they will change into a rainbow squid. They have moved the time a little bit as well. So the HUD has changed, the text has changed, the font has changed. That's the stuff that I did notice earlier. And you got to talk about the new special weapons. They are all brand new special weapons for Splatoon 2. And I do actually prefer these special weapons to Splatoon Wii U. Just because I feel like with Splatoon on the Wii U, the special weapons I felt were a little bit unfair. It's like you had the Kraken, you had invincibility pretty much as the Kraken. You couldn't really do anything against a Kraken user apart from trying to run away from them or trying to shoot them to prevent them from, splatting you. But for me, whenever I tried to splat a Kraken, it just never worked. And also you got the Bubbler as well. The Bubbler, you just couldn't do anything against that. But with this time around, you got the Baller, which I feel like is like the Kraken. But this time around, with the Baller, as the opponent coming up against the baller, you can actually shoot that and you have a chance against it. And with I can't remember what the name of the special weapon, but there is a bubbler equivalent. I do believe it's called ink armor. Could be wrong on that, but it is an equivalent to the bubbler in Splatoon 2. But instead of, you know, granting you pretty much infinite health for, or infinite shield for like a period of time, now it will just grant you shield for maybe 2 or 3 hits, so you still have a chance to splat the person using the ink armor. I've come up against many people with the ink armor and I've managed to splat them. So now I feel like the special weapons, they are fair, and I feel like they are a lot more fun to use as well. I definitely do miss the ink Zuka though. That's just you know, special weapon that I am missing from the original game. Maybe they will do like updates to include like the old special weapons from the original Splatoon. So yeah, you got Salmon Run as well. So for me, Splatoon 2 is definitely a worthy sequel. You got new weapons in there as well, like the Splat Duel is. And you've got the Spratbrella coming up soon, which is available in the single player. And talking about the single player is really fun. Really is. Having a blast playing it. Haven't done too much in the single player yet, but what I can say about it is that it is a really fun experience. Let's just talk about the general multiplayer, just because that is what I have spent the most time in. I am absolutely loving the maps. I really am. The stages, I feel like they are well balanced between, like, you got some small stages in there and you got medium size. You don't really have too many long range maps, which means that the action is constant pretty much. You are always having action all of the time. So yeah, I'm having a blast playing the game. It's like the first day spent about 6 hours playing the game, and the second day spent about 5 hours. I spent quite a few days playing the game for 5 or 6 hours, and that is because the game is really fun. It is really addictive. My favourite weapon so far is the Crack-On Roller. Never really gave the rollers that much of a chance in the original Splatoon. They were always a weapon class that did annoy me. So I thought this time around, because the rollers are really strong, you know what, I may as well use them myself instead of complaining about them. And yeah, I'm having a blast using the roller. I don't just use the roller, I've used the aerospray. I've pretty much bought all of the weapons in the game, you know, tried them out. There is a wide variety of weapons to use. So yeah, the multiplayer is fun. Turf War, having a blast playing that. I just love these stages, I really do. I had a fear that from the global test fire that the stages will be too short range, just because we had the Reef and Muscle Forge Fitness, but that is not an issue for me anymore, just because you got maps like Port Mackerel returning. It's like Port Mackerel, just going back to, you know, Splatoon 2 feeling like a sequel. They have changed some elements, like in returning maps, Murray Towers and Port Mackerel. And Port Mackerel, you got these sponges on the map now, and you can go onto a second platform on your spawn. And splat zones, Port Mackerel, it's no longer 2 splat zones anymore. They have changed. I don't believe there is any maps with 2 splat zones on anymore. I think it's just 1 splat zone and that is it. So they have changed that with Port Mackerel. I did make comparison videos for those 2 maps, so I'll leave a link to them in the description. And yeah, Murray Towers, you now got the ink rails from the campaign in that map, so that is pretty cool to see. And those comparison videos for me have pointed out that Splatoon 2, it looks a lot better than Splatoon Wii U in my opinion. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, oh, it looks the same. It definitely doesn't. It really doesn't. From somebody that has put in 200 hours into Splatoon Wii U, Splatoon Wii U never looked as good as Splatoon 2. They have definitely improved some of the lighting effects and the shadows and stuff like that in the game. They have definitely made an improvement. They have made use of the extra power available to them with the Switch from what they could do with the Wii U. So I definitely feel like Splatoon 2 looks a lot better than Splatoon Wii U. Let's just talk about Salmon Run. That is really fun. It's something which I wanted from having played the Splatoon Wii U campaign. I wanted a horde mode where you could come up against bosses, and that is what Nintendo provided me with. They provided me with a mode where I could come up against really fun and creative bosses. You know, you've got 2 stages at the moment. I'm sure they will add to that with future updates. But yeah, Salmon Run, it is incredibly fun. Really is. I guess the only downsides to Salmon Run is you got, you know, the fact that it's not available all of the time. But pretty much you got a day where you got Salmon Run available for 12 hours or sometimes 24 hours. And then you got a day off. And then you got a day with Salmon Run. So what I do is, when Salmon Run is available, just go proper deep into Salmon Run, try and get as high a level as I can. And the fact that they have tied single player, Salmon Run and multiplayer together, it just makes you want to play those modes even more. Just because with Salmon Run you can unlock tickets for Krusty Sean's shop, so you can get double XP for the multiplayer. You can get more money, so you can get more gear to use in the multiplayer, and you can get gear in Salmon Run, exclusive gear in Salmon Run to be used in the multiplayer as well. So the fact that they did do that with Salmon Run, it just gives you an added purpose to play Salmon Run. And I said on Twitter that I preferred Salmon Run to Call of Duty Zombies, just because I feel like with Salmon Run there is a purpose there. You know, you need to get golden eggs, and you know, you need to get as much P as possible so you can get gear for, you know, multiplayer. You can get gold orbs for, you know, the multiplayer, get green orbs, get red orbs to get food tickets. So I feel like there is an added, like there is a purpose to Salmon Run, whereas with Call of Duty Zombies, I just feel like because it is endless, there's not really a point to it. You're just running around just seeing how high you can get. There's not really like a story sort of point there. There's not like a reason why you need to play zombies, in my opinion. So that is why I prefer Salmon Run. I would prefer Salmon Run to be longer than 2 or 3 rounds, but you know, when you do level up, it does get harder, so it does feel like, you know, it does feel longer when you do get higher up. But yeah, Salmon Run, I didn't think I would spend as much time playing Salmon Run as what I am doing, but seriously, it is a lot of fun to play. It is, you know, really fun, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Salmon Run. I'm looking forward to them introducing new stages. I definitely feel like they do need to introduce new stages to keep things fresh. So yeah, all in all, you know, I've been putting a lot of time into the game, and that is because I am having a lot of fun. So yeah, the game is, you know, it's great, and they have made some improvements from Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2. So you don't need to sit through a news broadcast when the maps change. Before in Splatoon 1, it used to take you out of the lobby, and it made you watch Callie and Marie doing a news broadcast updating you on new stages. Now the new stages update, and you know, now, you know, you just go into the multiplayer and see, oh, these are the maps now for this next 2-hour session. But if you do log in, then you will have to sit in. So like if you do turn off your Switch, you will have to sit through the news broadcast again. That is a change that I would have liked to have seen from the original Splatoon. So say like if you are in a 2-hour session, you turn off your Switch in that 2-hour session, I don't think you should watch that news broadcast again for that 2-hour session. That's just my opinion. I've already talked about the special weapons. I feel like they are an improvement on Splatoon 1's special weapons. Splatfest, now you can play that with friends. They are all of the improvements that I can think of from the top of my head. I probably am missing out on some. I guess the fact that now with ranked, now it's not just like you got an individual ranking points. Now they have split it up into different game modes. I think that is really good, just because you could be good with Splat Zones, but you could be terrible at Rainmaker. It just gives you an added reason to play those other game modes as well. It's like, all right, I'm B minus on Splat Zones. I want to get Tower Control and Rainmaker up to B minus. I want to get all of my other ranked modes up to the same level. It just gives you an added reason to play the ranked modes, and to try and get them leveled up. But there is a lot of stuff that I feel like should have been changed from Splatoon 1 that hasn't been changed in Splatoon 2. Now, Nintendo could do this in the future, but from what it seems like, it does seem like Splatfest will only be set on Turf War. I think because you're going to be getting Splatfest for the next 2 years, I feel like, to mix things up, I feel like Splatfest should be set on every single game mode pretty much. So 1 week it's Turf War. Maybe like for the first couple of months it will be on Turf War, but then do like a weekly rota. So 1 week it is Tower Control, next week it's Splat Zones, week after that it's Rainmaker, or the next Splatfest after that it will be Turf War. I just feel like having Splatfest on every single game mode, I just feel like it would keep things a lot more fresh pretty much. That's just a criticism that I've got about Splatfest. Now, leading up to Splatoon 2, I made a video talking about some of the local multiplayer options that they could do in Splatoon 2, and I made an argument that because with the Switch you can take it anywhere, I said you should be able to play Turf War, all of the online modes pretty much, offline against bots, just because when you're out and about you may not have access to Wi-Fi. But unfortunately, with Splatoon 2, there is no ability to play Splatoon 2 offline on your own against bots. You can play local multiplayer with your friends, but each person needs to have a Switch, so they need to own the hardware itself and a copy of the game. That is the only way you can play Splatoon 2 on the move. That is pretty much the only way, unless you've got access to Wi-Fi, like a Wi-Fi hotspot. That is the only way you have access to the online modes offline. I just feel like that is such a basic thing that should have been implemented in the game. I really do feel like we should have had access to all of the online modes offline. And talking about local multiplayer, I'm really disappointed that you can't do split screen multiplayer. They did that with Splatoon Wii U, how you had a person on the gamepad screen and then you had a person on the TV screen. I'm sure some people say, oh, split screen multiplayer will be too taxing on the hardware itself. But if the Wii U could do local multiplayer, transmitting gameplay to 2 different screens, then I'm sure that the Switch could do some sort of split screen multiplayer. Maybe it will be 30 FPS, but if you, like I said, if you could do local multiplayer, split screen multiplayer, offline, maybe just one-on-one, or maybe you could add in maybe 1 or 2 bots in there. I definitely feel like it is possible, and I feel like that is a really big omission, and it's something which should have been thought about when talking about Splatoon for the Switch. It's just a perfect fit for the hardware, being able to play all of the online modes anywhere. I just feel like that is a really big omission. It's just a really big negative for me. Another negative is something which I didn't really expect, but I'm sure some people are disappointed that you can't play as the Octolings, just because people did discover that Nintendo did toy with the Octolings, like the playable Octolings idea within Splatoon Wii U. I thought maybe they could do, playing against bots. Maybe the bots would be Octolings instead of Inklings. That's just my idea for the offline multiplayer. Now this is a massive, huge negative. Something which shouldn't have been carried over from Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2. the fact is you still lose points if you disconnect. So if you are on ranked or on salmon run, if you disconnect, you lose a lot of points. That is just so unfair. It's like unfair just because I disconnected from the servers, I shouldn't lose points for that. I can accept if I lose the match, then yeah, I should lose points for that, but I shouldn't lose points for disconnecting. That is something which should have been changed from Splatoon 2, from Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2. And talking about disconnections, the game doesn't replace people that rage quit or disconnect. So if you are on salmon run, you are at a disadvantage if somebody disconnects or rage quits. You know, it's hard to complete and win a salmon run when you are a player down, and the same with multiplayer as well. That is something which should have been fixed, either adding a bot, or adding somebody else, and if that person joins and then they lose the match, then maybe they don't lose ranking points. So, you know, because they did join the match late, it's, you know, unfair for them to lose points for that. But let's just move on to the general negatives I have for the game. I've spent, you know, a long time talking about the positives. I definitely feel like Nintendo, they could have done more with Splatoon 2. I feel like, you know, if they went that extra mile, then this game could have been a 10 out of 10, but because of all the negatives that I've just listed before, the highest that I could give this game is, you know, 9 out of 10. But let's just move on to the general negatives. Really disappointed that there is no new online mode for the ranked. I definitely feel that there should have been at least one new ranked mode. You know, I think they could have done like a Splatoon Deluxe or an arena mode where it's 1v1. I definitely feel like they could have done something in there. Like they could have added something new for the ranked modes, and maybe it will be coming in a future update. But in that Splatoon 2 Direct, they never mentioned that new modes will be coming in the updates. It just says new stages, new weapons, you know, and that's it pretty much. And Splatfest, they didn't mention any ranked modes at all. I definitely feel like there should have been at least one new ranked mode. I guess another general negative is that you can't pick and choose, you know, what ranked mode, you know, to play. It is limited to the 2-hour slot, so you can't just pick and say, yeah, I want to play tower control now. You are stuck to, you know, the 2-hour rotation. Some people will use that 2-hour map rotation as a negative. I don't think it is a negative at all. I really don't, just because that is what the game is about. The game is about, right, these two maps are now in play. I'm now going to be using these weapons just because this weapon is best suited to these two maps. It's like, right, Inkblot Academy and the Reef. Oh, great, I can use my Aerospray. But it's like if it was Port Mackerel and Murray Towers, right, I'm using the Splatshot Pro. So I don't think the map rotation is a negative. But I do feel like you should be able to play on all of the ranked modes. And the last one that I've got from the top of my head is that you can't play Salmon Run offline on your own. That's just a massive, massive negative. I really do feel like you should be able to play all of the stuff that you can play online, offline. Because when you are out and about and you haven't got Wi-Fi, the only thing you can play is a single player pretty much, unless there are people around you with a Switch. But you know, that might be a rare situation, and maybe the only game mode that you can play is single player, and that's it. So I definitely feel like you should be able to play Salmon Run, Turf War, Splat Zones, Tower Control and Rainmaker offline on your own against bots. I really do feel like that is a massive negative. And I just want to talk about the servers as well. I definitely feel like the servers are a negative. I definitely feel like they are unstable. I've had zero problems with ARMS, but with Splatoon 2, I've been getting disconnections left, right and centre, and it's not just me. I've been, you know, looking what other people have been saying. A lot of people have been getting disconnections, and they have been getting that warning that, oh, you might get banned. Oh, it looks pretty suspicious that your last match didn't finish properly. No, it's not me rage quitting. By the way, they should do what ARMS done and limit you pressing the home button so you can't just simply rage quit from matches. It is way too easy to rage quit from a match in Splatoon 2 just because you can just press the home button and close the software and that's it. You know you're out of the match. But the fact that you get that message if you simply disconnect, yeah, I feel like the servers, they need to be a lot better, and hopefully they will be better by the time that we will have to pay for online, because I feel like the server reliability in Splatoon 2 is a lot worse than in ARMS. I got zero problem. I haven't had a problem where I myself disconnected. I've had people who disconnected from my match and then I won and it took me back to the lobby. I haven't had a problem where it booted me offline to the main menu. Never had that problem with ARMS, but with Splatoon 2 I am having quite a lot of server problems with the game, so that is a little bit concerning. So that's just, you know, another negative that I've got. So just want to wrap things up now, just because if this review has gone on a long time, but my general thoughts is that Splatoon 2 is greatness. It really is greatness. In terms of whether it is the best shooter now in the generation, I'm not sure. Just because I haven't played Call of Duty World War 2, I haven't played Star Wars Battlefront 2 yet. So when I do play those games, then I will come out and say, you know, if I do feel like Splatoon 2 is the best shooter of 2017, then I will come out and say that. But yeah, Splatoon 2, it's a lot of fun. It's really addictive. I'm having a blast playing the game, but it's greatness, but it's not perfection. So if I had to give it a score, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. And if they did improve and did like take out all of those negatives that I did just spend the last 10-15 minutes talking about, then it would be a perfect 10 out of 10. I'm not going to talk about the voice chat just because I do believe that is a problem with the hardware itself. It's not a problem with this individual piece of software. You know, it's not a problem with Splatoon 2 itself. And with, you know, different games, you're still going to have the same problem with the voice chat, just because it is a problem with the hardware infrastructure itself and the network infrastructure. It's not a problem with the game itself, so that is why I haven't included my thoughts on voice chat within this video. But yeah, for me, I feel like Nintendo, they could have done that extra step. They could have gone that extra mile with Splatoon 2 to improve all of the negatives in Splatoon 1, like the fact that you lose points for disconnections. They've got the gameplay mechanics, which is probably the hardest part, nailed down, but the simple stuff, like being able to play all of the game modes like online, offline, and you know, the fact that you do lose points if you do disconnect, they are simple things that should have been changed from the original Splatoon. So that is why I cannot give Splatoon 2 a 10 out of 10. And the fact that there is no new ranked mode at the moment, I don't think there will be at all for the life cycle, but maybe I could be wrong. I just can't give the game a 10 out of 10, unfortunately. But yeah, the game is still great, and it probably will be one of the best shooters to come out this year. I just feel like, because Nintendo, they have such high standards for their games, I feel like they could have gone that extra step with Splatoon 2. So yeah, it's just a little bit disappointed that they haven't fixed some of the things that could have been fixed, and who knows, maybe some of the problems that I do have with the game, maybe they will be sorted with updates, but I don't think they will, to be honest with you, just because stuff like losing points when you disconnect, they never changed that with an update in Splatoon Wii U, so I don't think they will do that in Splatoon 2. So yeah, this is an in-depth review of the game. Is it better than Splatoon Wii U? I definitely feel like it is, just because it is a lot, you know, there is a lot more stuff there to do, like Salmon Run. That Salmon Run alone, for me, just makes Splatoon 2 better than Splatoon Wii U. And I definitely feel like it is a worthy sequel as well. So I'm going to be putting in probably another 200 hours into Splatoon 2, checking out all of the new maps, all of the new weapons as well. So I'm going to have a blast playing the game. But I just feel like they could have gone that extra step to turn this game from greatness into sheer perfection. So that is it for my video, my review on Splatoon 2. I probably have gone in a lot more depth than some other people have. It's just because I am a huge fan of Splatoon, like what I said at the start. The original Splatoon, one of my favourite games of all time, and I probably would put this up there as well. It's definitely one of my favourite Switch games, and Splatoon 2 was the main reason why I did pick up a Switch. On launch day I wanted to get one just for Splatoon 2, and of course I picked up Zelda as well, and, you know, Zelda's greatness. But yeah, I'm just having a blast playing the game. So yeah, that is it for this video. Otherwise this video will just go on for a long period of time, and it's gone on for way longer than what I thought it would do. It's just that I wanted to get all of my thoughts out in one video. I'm sure that I have missed out some which I wanted to say as well. And I'm sure as soon as I press that stop button, I'm sure I will think of something that I didn't mention in this video. So if I have, then what I might do is I might stitch it on at the end. But if I'm not, that is the end of this video. My voice is gradually going, it's flipping dry, needs some flipping water, so I'm going to get a drink of water, and I will see you next time. Make sure you are staying tuned for my channel for more Splatoon 2 content, and yeah, that's it for this video, and I will see you next time.